wish I could whistle. I'm really a bad whistler. Okay. You got the camera. And we're rolling. All right, here we go. Hey, folks. How you doing tonight? I am doing fantastic. I mean, if I wasn't, who cares anyhow, right? So, Jonathan's got me all set up here. We are on episode 91 of Elk Talk Live. Whew. Wow, we're blowing through it. Elk Talk Live is brought to you by GoHunt.com. Go out there if you want to. Sign up for the Insider and use promo code Randy and get your name in the hat for a Wyoming Commissioner's Tag. Yeah, so here's how a Commissioner's Tag works. You can take that voucher, it's really a voucher, and you go to Wyoming Game and Fish and say, any of these deer units, any of these antelope units, hunt codes, whatever you want to call it, and almost every elk hunt code, you are allowed to pick from those lists. Most people are going to use this for an elk hunt, and they're probably going to pick some of the late migration hunts, and they're going to turn that voucher in and it's as if you drew the tag for that hunt code. So everyone who signs up for the Insider using our promo code before June 30th, or I guess before July 1st, GoHunt's going to draw one of your names the first week of July, and someone's going to get this Wyoming Commissioner's Tag. Plus, they're going to give you $50 of credit, like a gift card in their gift shop. So, also, Bowtech. I got my two new Bowtech bows right back here. Leupold. Let's see. Gerber Gear. Go to gerbergear.com. The new Randy Newberg knives are going to launch next Friday. The 19th. Is next Friday the 19th? Yeah. Go to gerbergear.com. Use promo code Randy and save yourself 20%. How cool is that, huh? And, I forgot my bugle in my car. Dang it. Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. Go there. This is one of the, today we're going to talk about some off-season activities, and Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls comes into this, because if you have an archery tag, there's nothing that beats practice. I can say that for sure, because I've been out practicing a little bit. It's like, man, it seems like I got to relearn this all over again. And so, go to Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, use promo code Randy and save 15%. And then, the wonderful folks at Tight Spot, Ripcord, and Black Gold, all my archery accessories, they help make this possible. So, today we're going to talk about these off-season activities. What are they? What can you be doing? And it's kind of simple, and you can make it as complex as you want. You can find times in your day of how you structure your day, whether it's okay before I go to work or over my lunch hour or whatever. You'd be amazed at how little time it takes to fit some of these into your off-season activity. And there's some obvious ones, and one is like range time, okay? I have an archery range out in my yard. Yesterday, I was out there, just started shooting, and it started pouring rain, so I went in my house, or in my shop. And I did an Instagram live in my shop. I don't know why I did. I just thought, well, I'll mess around here and try it. But both with a bow and a rifle. And this range time that I call it has two purposes. One, get your stuff dialed in so that you know exactly, on your rifle, you know exactly what your ammo is doing, exactly where your zero is, what it does with 10 mile an hour quartering crosswind, what it does at 400 yards versus 150 yards. Same with your bow. All those kind of things. Then once you have that dialed, then it's about getting yourself dialed in. I do a lot of rifle shooting, and for me, it's always about being in these weird positions and trying to get my breathing cycle. And that just comes with practice, okay? You let that breath out, and when you get to the bottom of that breathing cycle, that's when you want to be ready to pull that trigger. And when it's happening out in the field, and I don't care if it's archery or rifle, you want this to be instinctive. You don't want to have to be thinking about it. So, to me, I would say most of the difficult shots I've made because of how much I practice in the off season. And another thing is, once I'm dialed in, I go out and I shoot both my bow and my rifle on the crappy days. I want to go out and shoot when it's windy. I want to go shoot when it's maybe mist and rain or something. conditions that replicate what I'm probably going to have out in the hills, because very seldom do I get to say, I'm going hunting this week, so I'm sure I can convince the weatherman to give me perfect weather with no wind. No. So that's a really, really big deal, and that's why I put it the first on the list. You put all this effort in there. You finally locate that bull, and you haven't got yourself in as good of form as your gear is. If you have the best gear in the world, you got an $8,000 rifle and a $3,000 bow, the best arrows, best broadheads, but you haven't got yourself there, all that other investment is kind of for naught. And this one, you know, I'm an accountant, right? I drive a desk for a living. So I don't know if I should call it working out, hiking. For me, it's hiking. I don't go to the gym. I don't do anything like that. Those of you who enjoy a gym, I'm happy for you. I go mentally nuts in a gym. I've never had a gym membership. I've a couple times taken advantage of the, you know, first month free, and I've went and tried it, and it doesn't work for me. And I know with some of you, your busy lives, family, work, whatever, travel, it may not work for you. But for me, my off season, and I started it a few weeks ago, is hiking. I do it for both cardio, strength, and endurance, core strength and endurance, and also to get my feet and my knees and my ankles in mountain shape. You are not going to get your feet, knees, and ankles in mountain shape on the Peloton or on the, you know, the step aerobic and the ellipticals and all that. There's nothing that beats putting a pack on with 20, 30, whatever pounds and going off trail, side hilling, up, down, on rocks, over whatever, and doing it for a few hours and banging those feet, getting those feet working around in the boots that you're going to wear hunting. You know, people will see me and they'll look in the summertime, everyone else is running the trails with their tinny runners on. Not me. I'm there with my hiking or my hunting boots. I wear those hunting boots every time when I'm doing this because I want my feet to break into my boots and I want my boots to be back in that form of what my feet are. And those of you who haven't done that, I know you're probably nodding your head saying, yeah, I've failed to work on my feet and my ankles. And then I go out there in the first 3 days, my feet are shot. You can't afford to do that. When you are elk hunting, I don't care if it's archery or whether it's rifle, your feet are the most important part. That's what carries all that weight. That's what allows you to get across that landscape. So don't think that just working out at the gym is going to do your feet any good. It is not. And running down the street with your, you know, Nikes, Adidas, New Balance, whatever, it might firm up your feet a little bit, but not like having an extra 20 or 30 pounds on your back. Going downhill, right? Your feet are sliding and slipping, you're side hilling, you can feel that your boot is catching you and your foot is trying to work its way up the side of the boot. That stuff is, that is what really, really gets you ready to go before season is even here. So that's why I hike. I don't have time to be at the gym and then go do the things that help with my feet, my ankles, my knees. So I do that. Then the rest of it for me could probably be bundled, these 3 items: scouting, research, and building my hunt plans. So I hope no one ever steals this laptop, because in this laptop is a whole bunch of tabs in an Excel spreadsheet that has my hunt plan. So you've got your maps where you've got all of your locations. Okay, this is morning one, morning or afternoon one, all that. But then I've got a whole nother hunt plan. Okay, of all these spots on my map, this is what I plan to do here. If it's raining, I'm going to go here. If it's hot, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Bits and pieces. I sent this week, because last week I found out I drew Colorado. What did I do this weekend? I did as much e-scouting as I could, and on Sunday night, I encapsulated all that into a really precise email to the wildlife manager for that hunting district. And it wasn't, hey, can you tell me where to go? It was, hey, I'm looking at this spot. I see these ridges run this direction and the trails run this way, and there's this trailhead. It looks to me like the elk would respond to pressure and go this direction over here in a slightly different direction over there. Can you confirm that? By Monday afternoon, I had an email back saying, you know, you're right. That's, in this spot, that's exactly what they do. But over here, you should think about this. There's some private land over there. So it kind of pushes the elk a different direction. All right, now I'm building this hunt plan. It's scouting, it's online. It's, I can't travel to Colorado. I don't have time. So it's right here on this laptop. I'm researching what are the elk doing in Colorado at 10,000 feet on October 10th. Well, the cows are still going to be on the food, the bulls, it's like that transition closer to post-rut than it is peak rut. So I might have a little bit of activity going on with rutting, but not much. Okay, now I'm thinking, where is all the hunting pressure going to come from? How steep is it? Where are the people going to come in from? Where are the trailheads? The elk, if everyone comes in on the 8th or 9th and season opens on the 10th, the elk already are queued up like, something not good here. So I'm putting together my plan and all my notes. And I have that for every hunt I'm going to do this year. So you got the whole summer to do it. Keep working on that stuff. And then the last thing I do is I start tuning up my gear. Last year, I forgot my tripod broke. I got to fix that. I lost a plate for my spotting scope. I got to get an extra plate. Or maybe I'm getting new gear. Maybe I'm going to try this or try that. So your gear is probably the next thing in all that off-season stuff. So don't let the off-season just drift by and then it comes 2 weeks before your hunt and you're like, man, I haven't really done much for this. You're probably going to get out of it what you put into it. And I would say the majority of my success comes from how much time I put into that hunt before the hunt even gets here. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I go out, here's my routine before or right after breakfast. I go out and I shoot 9 arrows, 20, 30, 40. I shoot 3 arrows at each spot. That's all I shoot. Then at lunch, I go shoot 9 more arrows. After dinner, I go shoot 9 more arrows. It takes, 10, 15 minutes, if that even, to do each of those. And in the process, I'm working on my form. It's not like some people would say, oh, well, I'll just do all 27 arrows at one time. Maybe that works for some people, but for me, it doesn't. For me, I don't want to be fatiguing my body in a way that messes up my form. I want to be doing 3, go pick them up, get 3 more, rest a little bit, make sure everything's loose, and be working on my form. And I can do that. It's such a small infringement on my day. My point of all that is you're going to be able to find these little bits and pieces of your day to do these kind of things. And hiking is probably the one that's going to take the most time. I allocate 4 days a week, 2 hours each of those 4 days. So I've got 8 hours in a week that I spend hiking, at least. Someday, as it gets closer to season, I might try to sneak in a 5th hike that day. And one day I might really load up the weight. I might go up to 50 pounds just because I'm wanting to work again on the core, on just my knees and ankles and my feet. And then one day I might drop that pack from 25 and 30 pounds down to nothing other than a water bladder. And I'll just buzz as fast as I can because I'm working more on cardio then. So it's a commitment. If you want to be at your best when you head out elk hunting, pretty much what it requires. So the off season is a great time to do it. If how else do I say it? I've already said it. Don't worry about it. Let's see. What power is my spotting scope? You know what? I think it's 27 to. I should know that. I got a Santium 5 from Leupold. You think I would know that? We don't have one here, do we, Jonathan? I think it's 27 to 55, something in there. So, let's see. I got a whole bunch of questions here from Instagram and from Facebook. And then we've got all of these ones that have, it's crazy how many have already showed up here on YouTube. It's, Dan says, hey, it's 95 degrees in San Diego. What's up? Hey, Jonathan, how much snow do you think we had on the mountain when we got up yesterday morning? A lot. Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming got hammered by snow Monday. So enjoy San Diego, Dan. Kyle says, hey, I thought that Elk Talk Live was canceled this week. I thought it was going to be also, but my wife had a migraine headache over the weekend, and now the vision, she can't see out of the right side of her eye. So she's doing okay. The headache's gone, but she's still got this thing. So we don't get to go fishing until she has her MRI tomorrow. Anyhow, so dang, huh? But pretty important that she gets that taken care of. Are we maintaining our social distancing? How far away are we, Jonathan? 10 feet? 10, 12 feet? We got Lysol, we got hand sanitizer, we got masks, we got it all here. So we're good. Oh, there's new owners of Jerry's Donuts in Rawlins, Wyoming. I like that. Let's see. Patrick says, Randy, I've noticed that you have used shooting sticks in what appears to be a really tall bipod. How often do you carry the sticks with you, and how often do you put a bipod on your gun? When I was a predator hunter, and I did a lot of it, I had a bipod on my, right out there on my rifle all the time. All the time. But I found in the mountains, I can usually adapt with a rock, a log, or something, and lay across my Mystery Ranch pack, and I can get a setup. Now, that piece you've seen me using, it's made by Bog. I think it's called the Adrenaline. It's really, really cool. It's super lightweight, and it, as you saw, it'll get up to, if I'm standing there, it'll get up to 6 feet. And it's pretty modular. You can use it in all, because it's a tripod, you can use it in all kinds of different forms and shapes. Some of the bipod ones, they wobble back and forth. I like the tripod. So that one's made by Bog. It's really, really good. I like it. Let's see. I think I answered that one about pack weight. Oh, you must eat dilly bars. How do you eat dilly bars while wearing a face mask? You know what? I go social distance and I eat my dilly bar without a face mask. What's the 308 bullet that I use? What do I have right here? It's Nosler 165 grain partition is what. My 308 just loves partitions. I use it all the time. That's, I don't know why my 308s like partitions the way they do, but it is just, choom. So, Dave asked, do I practice shooting my rifle from different positions in the off season? Oh yeah, I do. You've probably seen some hunts. In 2015, the biggest bull I ever took that I've taken to date, I shot here in Montana offhand. Tyler, my camera guy, was pushing me up the hill. Go, 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 go. Everyone likes that piece. And we go running across this little rolling spot, and I get there, and I have to make an offhand shot, because if I get down, the grass is too tall. And I lucked out, and I made, my second shot was a really good shot. My first shot wasn't worth a darn. But, you know, you get, in certain positions, you have a different breathing cycle. Whether you're kneeling, whether you're prone and offhand, whether you're, you know, I mean upright and offhand, or whether you're prone, you're going to have a different breathing cycle. So I practice all that. I practice a lot of shots at moving targets, which people are like, why do you even waste your time with that? I've had to do it a couple times. And if you practice it a lot, you get pretty comfortable with it. Now, I'm not going to lob things out there offhand at 300 yards, but I practice a lot. And I'm fortunate, you know, for me, ammo is free. And so I'm not going to skimp for all that we put into this. And kind of like probably you do, you want to make sure that you're giving it your best. And so I shoot a lot, and I try all those different positions. Kneeling. Out at our range, we got a bunch of upright posts. I can lean against a post. I can lean across a table. I try to bring my pack and other stuff to manufacture in actual shooting condition. I don't know if it's helped It seems to me that it has, but it's something I take very seriously about how to do that. Let's see, Randy, any father-son hunts this year? Maybe. Matthew, my son, and I, we applied for Oregon Roosevelt's together. Hoping that we draw. Other than that, he hasn't drawn anything. It's been a drought for him. What's this? Randy, you've talked about your dump backpack several times. However, you also have a camera crew with you. Would your pack stay the same if you were by yourself? No, my pack would get heavier if I was by myself. Now, if I wasn't filming, my pack would get lighter. I know a lot of people watch us do our bag dumps or our pack dumps, and they're like, man, is there anything you didn't put in there? And part of that is what we need for producing video. So if I wasn't doing this in a way that we had to film a lot of stuff, I'd have a lighter pack. Now, how we do it with the three of us is one person has the emergency medical kit. One person has the spotter, one person has this. And so we try not to duplicate or triplicate stuff. So we do share stuff. Like if we're gonna eat a meal up on the mountain, one person carries the stove and everyone else carries their meal and their water. Stuff like that. So if I was by myself, my pack would be heavier, but if I wasn't filming, my pack would be lighter. Let's see. I wonder if I can get to some of these. Are you out there, Jonathan, doing the copy and paste mechanism? Okay. Oh, one other thing. We drew 2 more winners today. Someone sends me an email. I don't want to watch a video. Tell me who the winners are. And right above the video, it says who the winners are. So, you know, last week I announced the winners, but everyone got an email. Everyone who's been in the survey and gave us their email address got a notification today that Mitchell from Oregon, Bradley from Utah, Caden from Washington, and Steve from Massachusetts were today's winners. We picked 2, and last week we had 2. So next Wednesday we'll pick 2. The following Wednesday we'll pick 2. And then we're going to kind of re-huddle and figure out, okay, what is the next series of survey questions and what's the next pile of prizes and everything else. So all of you who've been participating, I really, really appreciate it. These guys here are probably tired of me talking about these survey results. It's like, hey guys, we're going to do this. We're going to change that. So hopefully all of you have done it. And if you have, or if you haven't, you can do that by texting ELK, E-L-K, to the number 64600, and you'll get in on the survey. So, let's see, get to Jonathan's page here. He's been copying and pasting a lot of your questions from other places, so I better open that document, huh? There we go. And then we got a whole bunch of them here from earlier. Like I said last week and the week before, is a lot of you have provided really good questions, and I'm trying to take these questions. I can't answer them all, unfortunately, but I'm trying to keep them in a certain path, because 3 people might ask a question that's somewhat similar to that. Okay, let me combine those 3 questions and try to answer. So that's what I'm trying to do, and this one was pretty easy. Robert said, I'm a new elk hunter, and I was wondering what weight my rifle should come in at. My friend's is 13.6 pounds. That seems like too much. Yeah, that's way, way too much. Unless you're hunting really flat ground and you got some way to get around. I don't own a rifle scope that weighs 13.6 pounds. For me, I want my scope and rifle setup to come in 9 pounds or less, hopefully even less. Some people have asked the spotting scopes. Someone asked earlier, but this one is about, do you like angled, the eyepiece to be angled so you're kind of looking down at an angle, or do you like straight? I used to hate angled spotting scopes until I started doing a lot of glassing uphill. Well, if you spend a lot of time glassing uphill, you'll really like an angled eyepiece. Now, if you glass downhill, you're going to like a straight one, or if you glass flat, a lot of people prefer a straight. I can get by with either, but I'm starting to get pretty partial to an angled spotter. Oh, here's one for your e-scouting. I was doing it this weekend. Garrett asks, how accurate and useful is Colorado's Hunt Atlas? If you go out to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife website, there is an interactive atlas. It's called the Colorado Hunting Atlas. And you can click what layers you want on there. And so he's asking, you know, how accurate is it for identifying and eliminating territory? It's not going to be as good as your aerial maps, but it shows the things I focus on are winter range, summer range, and where are the migration corridors. I want those. I want to know when they're doing their flights and their surveys or whatever observations they're doing to come up with that, especially in a state like Colorado, where you're talking about a lot of migration because high elevation, lower elevation. I want to know where that winter range or summer range is and where that winter range is. Because if I have a first season like I do this year, versus if I had a third season, I'm going to be in different locations. I'm going to be looking up here where the summer range hits the transition range. So anything between summer range and winter range, I call transition range, okay? So this is where they spend May, June, July, August, way up here. Down here is where they span December, January, February, March. The transition ranges are when they're moving from one to the other. And this is where a lot of the hunting takes place, is the transition range. So I love that atlas because it gives me a pretty good feel of where the transition range is. So I have a first season tag in Colorado this year that's October 10th. Well, I'm going to be hunting up here. I'm going to be where that summer range, probably that first third or upper half of the transition range is where I'm going to focus. And if it's super warm, I might even be up here on the summer range. But the likelihood is at the elevations I'm going to be, there's been some winter, the feed is pretty much dried up and cured, so they're going to start moving. And I know that if this is the summer to winter transition range, the cows are going to come down first and the bulls are going to be up ahead of them. Now, if I had a third or fourth season tag, I'm going to be down in this part. So that Colorado Atlas, they've done a ton of work to tell you this information. It's free. Go and use it. Don't discount it. It's really, really helpful. And when you're building your e-scouting plan, make note of that. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you write it on a napkin, take a screenshot on your phone, whatever you got to do. That's super, super helpful information. So I had a couple questions about trail cameras. I don't own a trail camera, so I'm sorry. I am not the guy who can answer anything with a trail camera. I don't even know how they work, quite honestly. So if you know a trail camera company that wants to send me a bunch of them, we'll take a bunch of video with them. I don't know. I don't own one, so I can't answer. So we get this often, and it applies probably to both California and Washington. Randy, do you ever put in for species in California? No, we don't. And the reason is when we look at the cost, the odds, and the experience, by that I mean the quality of the hunt, the crowding of the hunt, how much land is accessible, inaccessible. That ratio or combination in California and Washington really makes it hard for us to justify it for ourselves, and it's hard for us to justify to an audience that might be driving 800 miles to get there and paying non-resident fees. So let's see. So this is those of you might be seeing this thing go across your screen a lot lately that says the GAOA. You know, it's like, hey, tell your congressman, tell your senator to vote for GAOA. It's the Great American Outdoors Act. And what it does is it takes the Land and Water Conservation Fund, the most important fund we have for improving access, hunting access, fishing access, whatever, on public lands. It's as old as I am. It's 55 years old. It was passed in the same year I was born. And I can assure you, if you hunt on public land anywhere in the United States, you have benefited from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So the Great American Outdoors Act says, hey, Congress, you let this expire 5 years ago and you've been passing these 1-2 year kind of maybe not kind of bills. This says we're going to make this permanent. And instead of you diverting the $900 million that Congress has been stealing, I shouldn't say steal, diverting, every year other than one since that fund's been around, in 1 year, one time did it get fully funded. The rest of the time, Congress takes that money and they, I don't know what they do with it, but they don't spend it on public lands. So this bill says you're going to take that money and you are going to spend it on this. So call your senator, call whoever, because if this is a huge chance. We've been working to get this done. The first time I went to Washington, D.C. to work on this Land and Water Conservation Fund was 1998. What's that, 22 years ago? What year were you born, Spear? 88. So you were 10 years old when I went and started, me and a whole bunch of other people. We almost had it back in 1998, but didn't work out. So anyhow, that'll be the last you hear me on anything political today. Let's see, a lot of cow elk hunting questions today. One is, if I want to find the oldest, biggest cow, what do I look for? Body size is one of the things, but the body shape. An old cow is going to have a bigger head than the younger cows, and her belly and her back are going to start to sway a little bit. You'll see that on a 2-year-old cow, her back is almost like a horizontal line, and her belly is a little bit tight. An old 12-year-old cow, she's starting to have a little bit of a dip to her back, and her belly drops a little bit more. And she's going to be significantly bigger than some of the younger cows, usually. So, and then one of the other cow questions is, would you consider a cow elk hunt an easier hunt for someone just trying to fill a freezer? Yes, I would. What are the tips in locating cows, and are there any unexpected challenges you might face? Every hunt has challenges, so to me, nothing's probably unexpected. It's going to be an easier hunt, but you hear me say this every time someone asks questions about cow elk hunting. Food, 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 food. And then when I was talking about that summer range, winter range thing, and that transition range, know what time of year you're hunting, and the cows are going to be lower than the bulls. So if you're seeing bulls up here at 8,000 feet, the odds are you're going to be seeing cows down here at 6,000 feet or whatever, depending on what the gradient is. But by late November, early December, those cows are going to be right down there by the winter range. So there's things you can do to make that a little bit easier. Here's a common question, and you could apply this same thing to a bow as the question David asked about a rifle. And he said, Randy, what do you consider the maximum ethical range for an elk cartridge? I've read 2,000 foot-pounds of energy, 1,800, 1,500, 1,200, what say you? Okay, this is all opinion. I just got to tell you, this is all opinion. So I want to have at least 1,500 foot-pounds of energy, and I want my bullet traveling 1,800 feet per second. So when I look at that, with pretty much every round that I shoot, no matter whether it's my 300 Win Mag, my 308, my 7mm 08, 270, whatever's in between there, that tells me my shots, I'm going to keep them under 400 yards because I want that bullet to be traveling fast enough with enough energy that I know that bullet is going to perform the way it's designed. You get out there too far and your speed slows down, well, guess what? Even if you can hit that target perfectly, you can dope the wind, you're like the long-range person of the century. I mean, you're Matthew Quigley, all right? But if your bullet is slowing down and you don't understand the physics of how your bullet expands and performs at slower speeds, you might just punch a little hole in that thing. So know your ammo. In other words, know what your bullet is. As a general rule, non-lead bullets require a little bit more speed on their target at their point of impact to fully mushroom and perform. So you're thinking about that. Well, okay, maybe I should keep my shots a little closer. Or maybe I need higher velocities to get that performance. So for me, again, this is all opinion, and it's why I don't take long shots. Well, one of the reasons why. One is I hunt to get closer, not further, but I have my minimum of 1,500 foot-pounds, 1,800 feet per second. Yeah, if the conditions were perfect and everything, you know, perfect broadside, full rest, no wind, I might be willing to drop those a little bit, but I'm not going to go too far below those. So, and that kind of determines my range. If I had something that by 300 yards was dropping down to 1,000 foot-pounds of energy, I'm not shooting 300 yards. I'm going to pull that back. And the same would apply for a bow. You know, you got to be thinking about, all right, what is my energy when it gets out there? What's the velocity measured in feet per second, all that. And for me, I shoot a heavy setup. So I've got a greater arc to my bow. And so I'm going to pull that back. And now I've got like old fogey eyes where, well, that target gets out there 60 yards, it's blurry. Man, 50 yards, it's okay. So I don't shoot over 40 yards just because I want that crisp target with those pins, and I know everything will be fine. So I don't know that anyone has the answer to that. You're going to have to answer that yourself, but I think if you develop some guidelines of, all right, here's what my equipment, my ammo, my arrow, my bow, my rifle, here's how it performs at certain distances, I think you'll build your own, well, I think what he said, ethics of it, just your own smart common sense of when to shoot and when not to shoot. So, a lot of people must be reading the Elk and Elk Ecology book, because there's a lot of questions here about those kind of things related to elk. And what grows big elk? So Brian did a good job of summarizing some of these questions. So I'm going to kind of take his. Do you feel that some states or some locations have better genetics and therefore better growth and antler size? Or is it just a function of management, available food, habitat, etc., to produce healthier, bigger animals? A lot of studies out there on this. There's studies on white-tailed deer. I mean, this has been studied to the ends of the earth on white-tailed deer. And it's been studied some on elk. But the results were pretty similar, no matter what study you look at, is genetics are not as important as food slash habitat and age. So pretty much anywhere in North America, elk have the genetics to express great antler size, and just how they've evolved. Then you take the other components of age and food slash habitat. Well, a lot of places elk live and prosper have good habitat. And so if they can live long enough, they have the genetics and they live in a place where they could express great, beautiful, you know, big antlers, but full mature elk, you know, what you want in a 7, 8, 9-year-old bull elk. Where management comes in is usually our management strategies, depending on what state you're in, what unit you're in, they don't get that age. So if they don't get that age, they're never going to get to express their full genetic potential or the full potential of the habitat that they live in. So most people will tell you it's a function of age, which is a function of management. So let's see. Randy, I'm in a very limited entry unit with 5 days to hunt. How picky are you? If an average bull in this unit is 6 points, 300-ish score, would you spend 3 days looking for 330? And on the evening of the fifth day, would you take an average bull, a raghorn, a cow, It's an either sex tag. For me, I'm not that picky. If I'm there and I see a mature 6 point, I'm shooting that thing. Unless if I get there a couple days early and I scout and I see a really, really nice bull and I know I'm the only one in there messing with him, I might pass a 3.5-year-old 6-point waiting to find that older one and know that, hey, I might kick myself. But as a general rule, and again, this is personal opinion. If you say, hey, I want to hunt the entire season, and if I don't find the one I'm looking for, I'm happy burning my tag, you know what? It's your tag. That's the beauty of it. The tag holder gets to define what they want out of the hunt. For me, I'm not that picky. So let's see. I have 10x42 binos and a spotting scope. Should I get a pair of 15x56 binos also? No, not for elk hunting. What you currently have in a 10x42 plus a spotter, you'll be fine. Don't go spend the money on that. Let's see. So I'll give you an example of a question that's really hard to answer and why a lot of questions get skipped. So someone says, I'm a first-time do-it-yourself over-the-counter elk hunter in Colorado. Any information would be appreciated. Great. It's so vague I can't answer it. Is it a bow season? Is it a muzzleloader season? Is it a rifle season? Public land, private land. If it's a rifle season, are you hunting October, November, late November? So I just bring that up that in the last 3-4 months or weeks, however long we've been doing it and fired back up, people have really been giving good questions. So I want to encourage people to keep asking really precise questions. It's super helpful. It makes it easier for us to answer. And I think the rest of you who are tagging along and watching get more out of it. So let's see what all Mr. Spear has copied and pasted to the Google Doc here. Let's see. Would you prefer the second or third season rifle elk hunt in Colorado? I'm a third season guy. I want that later season. They're now in late season mode instead of post-rut mode. Second season is post-rut. It's the hardest time of the year to kill a bull elk on public land. So I'm a third season guy, but I understand a lot of people, their schedules, they have to hunt second season. So that's what they have to do. Let's see. Randy, when you practice your archery every day, do you get your heart rate up to practice and take some out of breath shots? Yep, I do that. I do that with a rifle. I do it with whatever. Roger asks, what affects your decision to use non-lead or bullets with lead? First and foremost is how well my rifle performs with non-lead. And I'll just say, I prefer non-lead if all other things are equal. But we all know that some rifles, it might be the 10 rifles from the same manufacturer, of the same caliber, same cartridge. One of them prefers this type of bullet, and the other 9 prefer a different type of bullet. I want my rifle to tell me what it prefers. And to a rifle, I have never had a rifle yet that did not like non-lead bullets. But I've only tried one brand. So I've had super, super good luck. So most of the time, like in my 300 Win Mag, unless I'm having a, like last year, did anybody, when California changed the law last year and required everybody to have lead bullets, did you see how hard it was to get California outlawed lead bullets last year? To get a non-lead bullet was just about impossible. I don't care where you lived. The manufacturers could not keep up with the demand for non-lead bullets. So now this winter, I've been stashing them. I've been building my stash. And so my 300 Win Mag this year is going to be Nosler E-tips, 180 grain. My 7M M08 is going to be 180 grain or 140 grain Nosler E-tips. My 308, it shoots those E-tips, 168 grain E-tips, really good, but there's like this little, just discomfort with my partitions. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's pretty much what drives it. Let's see. How many rounds do I fire in a range session? You know, that depends. If I'm breaking in a rifle, I'm shooting at least 20 rounds during break-in. I shoot 2, fully clean the barrel, let it cool. Well, first I shoot 1. For the first 10, it's 1, clean and cool. Once it's cooled, shoot another one, clean and cool, till I get to 10. Then the last 10, I shoot them in groups of 2, so I got 5 of those sessions. But then when I'm out there, it just depends on the conditions. I usually bring multiple rifles with me. When I show up at the range, people look at me like, this guy brought 6 rifles with him today. What's his deal? Well, I don't want to be sitting there just bang, 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 heating up that barrel. I want to shoot once, maybe twice, go put that one aside, go grab one that's cold and cool, back to ambient temperature, grab that one, do something different. I know not everybody can do that. But that's what I do. And so in the process of doing that, I end up, I don't know, in a session, I'm probably shooting 50 rounds per session would be my guess each time I go out there. That's just a guess. Now the other thing, you'll know I shoot Howa rifles. I have pretty much the same stock on all of them. I have my trigger set to the same exact standards on every one of them. Because I don't want to have one trigger that has a lot of creep and set at 3 pounds and another trigger that has just hardly any creep and set at 2 pounds. So I have a gunsmith. He sets every one of my triggers to 2.5 pounds. So no matter which rifle I grab, all my practice is kind of built on that same breathing cycle. Boom. And sometimes I'll sit there and dry fire. Man, I won't even shoot rounds. I'll be at home. I'll be bored. I'll be sitting there practicing breathing. Ding. I know it's weird, but I just, it's what I do. So, let's see. Let's see. Someone's talking about bugling in the late season. We've answered that before. Usually not a lot of bugling going on in those later seasons. Paul's asking, hey Randy, what's the deal with Montana and their tags being on what appears to be computer paper? Yeah, 2020 is the first year that Montana lets you print your tag at home on your computer paper. I have no idea what's going to happen there. Last week, a bunch of people said they're laminating theirs with contact paper or something else. That's probably a pretty good idea. I'm going to be bringing those little bags that I get in my Caribou game bags, and that's what I'm going to be doing with mine. You know, we get a bunch of questions here. Another place I get a ton of questions is Corey Jacobson and I do the Elk Talk podcast. And if you go to elktalkpodcast.com, there's a place where you can ask your questions. And we probably, over the course of a week, get 100 questions. So I go and mine the document Jonathan's working on. I go and data mine the list of questions from the Elk Talk podcast. And one of the things that has come out there is, for those of you who archery hunt in Colorado, is the peak period in the Colorado elk rut, they also let the muzzleloaders in the season, or in the woods at the same time. So this, 8-9 day muzzleloader season is happening right in the peak of the rut. And so a lot of people are saying, I'm an archer. Would you go during that period? Would you go earlier? Would you go later? That's really a tough one. I've talked to people. I've never archery hunted in Colorado. I've rifle hunted quite a bit, but never archery. And I've talked to people who say, man, there was a muzzleloader going on for every hour. Around every corner, there's another guy in orange with a muzzleloader. And then I've talked to other people who say, you know what? I didn't even know muzzleloader season was going on. So there's a couple questions in here about that, is which days would I pick? It's really, really up to you. If that's the peak time, boy, it's hard to not be out there with your bow. I know that probably doesn't answer the question well, but I'd say that's just up to you. Here's one. We're going to have this same situation. New Mexico, mid-October, any legal elk should I be calling? Yes. I I've had a lot of elk bugling in New Mexico, October 14th, 15th, 16th-ish. It depends on what the elk densities are, what the bull to cow ratios are, stuff like that. But it might be worth doing. Maybe do it in the dark before all the hunters show up and see if you get any responses. We'll be down there this year. Our sweepstakes winner, his hunt starts October 17th. I suspect that night and in the darkness of the morning, we're going to hear a few bugles. Every year we've been down there in that unit around that time, we've heard a little bit of bugling. So, and part of that is, I think, is that unit has ridiculous elk densities and ridiculous bull to cow ratios. Whereas if you had low densities and maybe the low bull to cow ratios, I don't know. And I shouldn't say, I don't really know, but that's, I don't know as fact. I'm going on my anecdotal observations. When you go to Idaho this year, who will you be with? That's a secret, not telling. I'm going to be with my llama. I went and bought a llama on Thursday. My buddy Bo Beatty sold me a llama, Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas, Idaho Falls. And I asked him how the rentals are going for llama rentals. And he said, you know, if people want a llama, they better give it the program because things are moving fast. And I suspect next week, Wyoming residents are going to get their elk results. Next week, I think we're going to get Oregon elk results, and I think we're going to get Idaho, if not next week, early the following week. So after next week, we're probably going to have all the tag results out. And when that happens, what do we see? All the over-the-counter stuff that's limited, like Idaho, people are like, I got to get my tag, got to get my tag. They're jumping on the leftover list for Montana. They're buying these over-the-counter tags in Oregon and Colorado. So we're going to go through a bunch of that stuff because the Go Hunt Insider has a lot of that stuff in the Insider for over-the-counter and general tags. So we're going to dive into that a little deeper after the final results are out, probably in 2 weeks. Would be my guess. So I'm wondering if people want us to do an actual episode about grizzly bears and hunting in grizzly bear country. There's so many questions here. We get so many questions in other platforms about hunting in grizzly country. And the reason I usually don't focus on it that much is because it's really relevant to Montana, Wyoming, and a little bit of Idaho. It has no relevance in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, you know, other parts of Idaho, Oregon. So, but if people said, hey, no, we want to know, we want to hear a lot more about hunting in grizzly country and food storage and meat storage and all that, heck, we'll do a whole Elk Talk Live on that if that's what people want and see how it goes. A lot of people have asked this in the past. Have any of me or the crew taken a wilderness first aid course? Not a wilderness first responder course. That was on my plan until COVID struck. So I want to do it, and I'd like to have one of my crew come with me and go do it because it's, you know, the time to be learning that stuff usually isn't when the problem strikes, right? And some of the places we go, what we do, oh man, it would not be good. One of these days, I'd have Corey join me to answer these questions about moon phases. If you've ever listened to our Elk Talk podcast, we're like yin and yang, left and right, up and down when it comes to moon phases. Corey's a big believer in moon phases, and he's got a lot of experience to lead him to that path. I don't give a damn about moon phases. I'm just going elk hunting. I don't let it bother me. I just go. And part of that is if you looked at our calendar, it's like from here to here to here to here. And so we can't take off and say, oh, the moon phase is bad. Let's not go to Wyoming this week. So maybe someday he and I should do give each other grief about moon phases. Oh, look like we're getting a lot of people who say, no, I'd love to know more about grizzlies. Now watch, I'll give all this grizzly information. I'll get eaten by a grizzly bear this year. Wouldn't that be terrible? I mean, it'd be terrible because I get mauled, but it'd really be ironic if here's Newberg saying, "Oh, you don't, do this, do that. It's not. Don't let it bother you," and then I get eaten by a bear. Oh, that wouldn't do that would not do a lot of good for my reputation. What little reputation I have.
We'd film some good content.
What's that?
We'd film some good content.
Oh yeah, and so Jonathan reminds me, if ever I do get attacked by a grizzly bear, don't be mad at my camera guys, because here's what they're told: if there are two of you, one of you is supposed to film the attack while I'm getting mauled, and the other is supposed to help get the bear off me. So I can see it. You're over there filming, Jonathan, and the audience is like, "Why isn't he helping the guy?" Well, because he's a good employee, and his boss said, film the encounter, film the mauling. So, Roger says the Knowles Wilderness courses are opening back up in July for the wilderness first responder. That's great. I'm really happy to hear that, because I'd like to go do that. So someone says, Randy, if you could choose one place to hunt elk in Colorado for the second or third rifle season, which one would you pick? The Mount Zirkle Wilderness area or the Flat Tops Wilderness area? Well, I wouldn't pick either of them if I was given my choice. And I've not hunted either of them to tell you. I'd go somewhere else, but if I had to choose between those two, I really don't know. Maybe I see someone from Colorado chimed in and says Flat Tops, ! That's the other part that's really been helpful the last few months, is how many of you have helped the other people out. And so a lot of questions get answered by someone who lives in that state, so that's been really cool also. Annie says, have Todd Orr on your podcast. Get Todd Orr if you can, like you did on the podcast. I was going to say, yeah, I had him on the podcast. Randy, any wolf encounters? Oh, man. We just got the wolf hide back from the taxiderm. I'll grab it, Jonathan. Huh? Look at this. Just from the taxidermist on Monday. And the wildlife disease ecologist got back to me and said, Randy, you don't wolf that you guys are going to eat, just cook it real well and you should be fine. So we found that out this week also. So we're going to go and have a wolf cookout. If you're in Bozeman, Montana and you want to try some wolf meat, we're going to invite people over to our parking lot so we can do all the adequate, social distancing and spacing and stuff. And if you want to try some wolf meat, we're going to have it for you. Oh, what'd you do, Jonathan? It went to no signal.
I still see it. I think it was just when I tilted the camera.
Oh, all right.
It was about a second.
So anyhow, this is our encounter. Oh. All right. And if you want to try wolf meat, we're going to have a chance for you to do that. You just got to get to Bozeman, Montana somehow. Let's see. Someone's like, Colorado is always crowded. Always crowded. Hike further, hike further. Yeah, Colorado can be crowded. I mean, when I hunt the third season, it's always crowded. But you know what? That's life. So what else we got here? Well, all the draws are done. A bunch of you have asked questions about where can I get a leftover tag or an over-the-counter tag. I think we touched on that last week about over-the-counter options. But not next week, the week after, I think probably the last week of June, we'll go back and revisit that again, because all the draw results will be out. We're going to talk about, here's what you got to do. You got to go here, you got to do this. And we're going to talk about in the over-the-counter, Idaho, Colorado, Oregon, Utah, and possibly Montana. So this is where I need your help, folks. I'm going to ask all of you a question right now. So I've often been interested in where our equipment comes from. Like before high performance mountain gear started showing up in the hunting space, me and a lot of my friends were using and buying stuff from mountaineering companies. Well, now a lot of that's been covered in the hunting space. But then I look at how much stuff I use for elk hunting that I've had to pull from the whitetail world, or pull from, maybe it's even the waterfowl world or something. So Corey Jacobson and I were talking about, is there anything that's really made for elk hunting? And we came up with, yeah, elk calls. Those are specific for elk hunting. Maybe there's, you know, like if there's a bullet that's been made for elk hunting, most people would say, oh, it's the Nosler partition, right? Came around in 1948. The Elk Foundation gets a percentage of royalties off much of the partition. It's kind of like the elk bullet that everybody grew up with. Other than that, we're trying to figure out what gear has been built specifically with the elk hunter in mind. I think some of the clothing that we use, I know I can speak for Sitka. Some of the Sitka clothing has been built, tested, and designed for most elk hunting situations. But are there rifles? Are there optics? I mean, you think about the whole gamut of things that we use when we're out there elk hunting. Did anyone ever approach it and say, this is for the elk hunter? Usually what happens, because the whitetail audience is known to be 4 to 6 times bigger than the elk audience and the mule deer audience, all of the manufacturers say, no, let's go build stuff for the whitetail audience, and those elk hunters will use it. So what got us on that discussion is the fact that these Gerber knives that you'll see in a couple weeks, these were built specifically for the elk hunter and designed with elk hunting in mind. Everything about these was them sending me out in the field for 3 years and said, do this with elk. You use this on elk, 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 elk. And yeah, we did it on other animals, but so in my mind, I'm trying to think, are there other products out there that you've seen, that you've used, that you know this was specifically built for the elk hunter? Because I'm interested in seeing more products get built for elk hunters. Not, oh, let's take what the bird hunters are using or the whitetail hunters are using and let's make it work for elk. Nah, let's build it for elk. Let's build it for hunting elk, for taking care of elk, for whatever it is. So I'm going to go back and look at all of your comments and questions to see if any of you have offered up some ideas of stuff that was used and built specifically with elk hunting in mind. So if any of you have that, I'd really like to see them in the comments here, because I've been racking my brain to try figure out what else has been built, designed, engineered, tested with the design of here's the elk hunter and that's who we're going to focus this on. And I can't think of many. So Dave says, oh, bonus points are built for elk. Yeah. Backpacks for packing out meat, yeah, to some degree. But I don't think anyone's ever said, well, an elk, you know, a quarter on an elk is going to be 74 pounds. You're also going to have a place, a carriage to haul out a European mount. You're going to need some sort of device here to keep the antlers from swinging forward. You know how we always cut off a tree or we use a trekking pole to keep it from swinging forward. I can think of all these applications just with backpacks that are elk specific. And yeah, I have found a way to adapt and adopt what I need from my Mystery Ranch Metcalf. And it works great. I mean, there's a reason I've been using it for since however long they came out with them. But wouldn't it be cool if companies started thinking specifically to the elk application. What about bipods? I don't think anyone's ever thought about a bipod for elk hunting. Every bipod I know of is bulky and clumsy and heavy. Mountain hunting for elk, you don't want bulky, clumsy, and heavy. So in my mind, the list just goes on and on and on of stuff that could be there, but I don't know what they are. And so that's why I'm asking all of you, if you think of some, either put them here, or if you haven't, if it's going to take, like me, if you're going to have to rack your brain like I've had to, bring them next week and say, hey, I thought about this. This was built for elk and elk hunting. So anyhow, I want to thank all of you for being here. I think we're going to be here next week. I shouldn't say that for sure. Depends on how well my wife's MRI turns out with her vision. She's really itching to go fishing, so I'm gonna go fishing if possible, but I might not be able to. But anyhow, appreciate all of you. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope you're enjoying summer. I hope you can put your snowblower away, like Jonathan and I are still looking at our shovel and snowblower like, let's wait till July. And thank the companies that make this possible. Leupold, Bowtech, Gerber, Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, Tight Spot, Ripcord, Black Gold, Go Hunt, all of them. Go out there, use promo code Randy anytime you're shopping. Hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't, let me know. I'll call them and say, hey, make sure that promo code Randy works for this person. And I hope when the results come out next week for Wyoming deer and antelope that you drew, I hope when they come out for Idaho that you drew, and I hope when they come out from Oregon, we all drew. Thanks for being here. Have a good evening. Thank you.